Game director Jonathan Dumont has touched on the controversy surrounding Assassin's Creed Shadows. Ubisoft, won't be addressing the comments or hate coming from Western audiences anymore, but says that he's willing to hear Japanese fans out as long as the feedback is good and warranted. How do you define good and warranted criticism? Like, especially with a AAA company like this, that's one of those questions that's going to go unanswered. But yeah, Assassin's Creed Shadows has been embroiled in controversy. We even saw them going on the offensive recently. A Grum's post saying March 20th is when Shadows ships. They're so confident that they locked replies to this, a tweet that they posted. Remember to identify as non-binary. We get Ubisoft to change. The other top publishers will notice, and they mocked him. They also ratioed him by saying, thank you for considering as a top publisher. They also responded to somebody else saying that this is Japan actually, the game Assassin's Creed Shadows, and as you can see, the minefield of responses here, yeah, a lot of people, the outrage surrounding this game is unprecedented, to say at the very least, and I very much so am curious to see how this game does with all of this considered. We've seen in the past that a lot of boycotts and a lot of campaigns like this have failed, but Assassin's Creed Shadows has been right there in the culture war, and this is a game that, Ubisoft absolutely needs to be a behemoth, and right now, even if you put all that stuff to the side, this just looks like a very okay experience, and that's kind of been my problem with a lot of these open world Ubisoft games for the last number of years, especially with the Assassin's Creed franchise. I felt very burned out with Valhalla, and even when they went back to what this franchise used to be known for with Mirage, it just didn't hit the same way, and I think that has to do with the writing talent that Ubisoft currently has. It just doesn't meet up to what this franchise used to be, pretty much. But yeah, there has also been clips like this going viral. I mean, everything Assassin's Creed Shadow has been embroiled in controversy. Somebody showing off, a games journalist showing off bamboo slicing tech, they're complimenting it. A lot of people saying that this is nothing new. There's PS1 games with even better, and then people slowing down the footage to show that it's actually not even accurately doing the move. And yeah, as you can see, the comment section is an absolute war zone, just like anything Assassin's Creed Shadows right now. But we also have seen that there has been a number of leaks that this game has suffered recently. We saw the art book leaking, which revealed a bunch of spoilers about the game, including some very interesting character choices that they made. Nothing really surprising with the French and Ubisoft, but we also did see that Assassin's Creed Shadows, the entire game, has leaked online. So far I have not seen any spoilers, but I'm really not looking for it myself. But yeah, it suffered a massive black market leak. Spoilers and gameplay streams have hit the internet as Ubisoft faces another major setback. And again, I think that the big difference here is that it's not like The Last of Us Part 2, when that happened with Sony going in overdrive, copyright striking anything and everything that was, talking about the leaks. But in this case, it just doesn't seem like there's a lot of interest in these leaks, at least from my timeline. Like, there isn't people throwing out massive spoilers. Maybe people just haven't gotten to that point yet, but it definitely does feel a little bit different in the fact that I guess the interest just isn't there to spoiler, some massive reveals that are going to happen in the game. And again, maybe they just haven't been found yet. We have seen, again, there's been confirmation of this from VGC saying Assassin's Creed Shadows is already being leaked and streamed online a month before release, and Ubisoft did confirm that this is in fact happening. And some articles have been posted from individuals that got these leaked copies, and they have confirmed that, yeah, this is the real deal. This is actually happening, and the entire game is out there weeks before launch, which for Ubisoft, again, they need this game to be a behemoth, worst case scenario for them. And yeah, people have been selling them on eBay and all kinds of other websites. Just something that not good at all for Ubisoft. We also did see them acknowledge this on social media, saying we are aware of players who have accessed Assassin's Creed Shadows ahead of its official release. The development team is still working on patches because, of course, every game nowadays has to have that massive day one patch to prepare the experience for launch, and any footage shared online does not represent the final quality of the game. Leaks are unfortunate and can diminish the excitement for players. We kindly ask you to not spoil the experience for others. Thank you to our community for already taking steps to protect everyone from spoilers. Stay in the shadows, avoid the spoilers. And then they also had some marketing stuff, which again, this game is it's just non-stop with the controversy. This one was then promoting boba tea, and again, optically this doesn't look great. Asian culture, this is more of a Taiwanese thing. Doing that with a Japanese product game just doesn't look great. I get it, company and all this stuff, but Ubisoft has been really riding a fine line with this game, and anything that they do at this point is going to be embroiled in controversy no matter what, even if it's warranted or unwarranted. We have also seen articles, again, previews for this game. This is what I mean. It hasn't been like this universal, like this is going to be a game of the year. It's been very mixed for a while. This was in June, in which we saw a number of previews which people were just saying that, yeah, this game's probably not going to be that great. Maybe it's time to accept Assassin's Creed isn't going to change, and that's not encouraging. We saw another preview saying pretty much the same thing. Assassin's Creed Shadow is just more of the same. And we did see that was partially why they delayed the game. Obviously, Star Wars Outlaws contributed, but they delayed because they needed to refine the gameplay mechanics. But again, my big issue with really this franchise hasn't been the gameplay. It's more to do with the storytelling, the characters. It just has not come together. There's also been some massive pacing issues with these recent open world Assassin's Creed games, and it's just one of those things that they continue to struggle with, and I'm not exactly feeling encouraged with everything that I've seen so far with Shadows. And even recently we did see more previews coming from IGN, GameSpot and such, which were a little bit more positive than what we had over the summer, but again, there was also a number of outlets that also voiced some massive concerns. Jeux Video, a French gaming outlet, saying, let's be honest, we might have been concerned about such a late hands-on session with Assassin's Creed Shadows, even though we tried a work-in-progress version. It was clear that the lengthy delay in the polishing still underway has been beneficial. That said, there are still some lingering uncertainties about this installment. And they go on to mention that Ubisoft Quebec, the team has brought some fresh ideas to add to the depth of the gameplay, as well as to the core pillars of the series. However, it feels like the fundamentals haven't been drastically altered. After 5, maybe 6 hours of play, we felt we'd already grasped the contours of certain repetitive gameplay loops. Exploring sanctuaries, declared hostile occupants, gather resources, and claim the contents of various chests, infiltrating enemy-filled castles where foes aren't easy to spot to earn more prestigious rewards. While the structure and design of the open world in this installment are commendable, there's a slight sense of deja vu in the over-reliance on scouring areas with a fine-tuned comb. Did we get a complete picture of what game has to offer, or will more surprises await us in the final review? Of course, there's the story, which was barely revealed during our session, that fans of the series and lore enthusiasts are eagerly anticipating. However, we worry about how these repetitive gameplay loops might impact the excitement between the start and the end of the experience, which is exactly kind of what happened with Valhalla for myself. I have my own review of that experience, but it just fell off the rails, and the gameplay, it just wasn't enough, and even there was a certain point that I just really wanted to put the controller down, and I fear that's going to be the same way with Shadows. But we also did see Skillup. He gave his own preview, which again voiced a lot of the concerns that I just really did not want to see with this game, but it's happening. He makes good points about how Yasuke isn't just very limited, but he's also not very immersive. He moves way too fast for his size and can charge through literal concrete, and for some reason he screams every time you assassinate someone, so there's only one way to play him. Combat is all he's got, and the combat isn't very interesting or deep, and because he's so limited in his parkour, even exploring the world as him doesn't make much sense unless you want to be sitting in loading screens the whole time. He goes on to say the writing isn't very good and all the characters feel lifeless and dull and robotic. That's just extremely alarming. And Skillup, a lot of his previews and reviews, my opinion, has aligned with him, so this is even more discouraging. And he says the whole scout system Ubisoft has been proudly talking about is just menu options. You're just pointing at markers and waiting for markers to appear. He finishes by guessing the game is probably a lot more fun as Neo, since she has more variety in options. She's more of an Assassin's Creed character, ninja stealth, stuff like that, and can fully utilize the sandbox nature of the game. It's just a shame for people who wanted to play as Yasuke. Again, in Japan, it's not like there's one way that people feel about Yasuke as a character or Assassin's Creed Shadows and what the game represents. It's very mixed. A lot of people, like clips like this have been going viral for weeks. There are some parts of Yasuke's gameplay in the current release AC Shadows that I personally think are not good. Wouldn't it be better to set it so that religious facilities cannot be destroyed? After all, it's a real shrine. People have brought up the previous history of this franchise, in which you fight the Pope, and other installments, such as the fact that you're raiding monasteries in Valhalla. But look, this is just a slippery rope that, Ubisoft has been playing around with, and especially after the numerous historical inaccuracies came to light a while ago, people have been looking at this game in a very different light, and Ubisoft cannot escape controversy, and I'm just very curious to see how this contributes to how this game does financially, or, if it ends up failing. That's a very much a question in the air right now. We have seen that Assassin's Creed Shadow, again, the controversy just keeps on going. We have seen that Assassin's Creed Shadow faces action from Japanese officials for shrine destruction. This was on the 20th. This was a story that went viral, but unfortunately it looks like it may have been a satirical Japanese website that talked about this. It's come to our attention that the original publication is an outlet known for producing false and hyperbolic stories, but they kept it up, and a number of YouTubers ran with this, and it wasn't true, but this exact same headline could be repeated a couple of days later because an actual Japanese official did come out with a statement against this game. Japanese politician calls on national diet to condemn Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed Shadows over in-game ability to destroy real-world Shinto shrine. Can we really excuse this just because it's a game? And again, this was just a couple of days later after that satirical headline went viral. And then after that, we saw, after learning that AC Shadows allows players to trash real-world Japanese Shinto shrine, current caretakers vow to take appropriate action against Ubisoft. Now, this article from Bound Comics does go on to mention that when pressed as whether or not they had ever, contacted Ubisoft regarding the site's location, the shrine, they recalled, no, if there had been, we would have refused to have it in the game. They go on to mention, however, when asked by Asanke Shibuin if they might be seeking the site's removal from the game, a representative, otherwise known as the Association of Shinto Shrines, the religious organization currently responsible for overseeing the administration of 80,000 such locations found throughout Japan, denied that such plans were currently on the table. And apparently they are seeking some sort of action at Ubisoft. Is this legal? Who knows? But definitely seems like there's Japanese organizations, Japanese people that are upset. But obviously, that doesn't tell the full picture, as there are many Japanese individuals that are also okay with Shadows. But again, it's just important to understand, this game isn't a minefield of controversy. We saw this happen with Veilguard, and it contributed to that game failing badly. But Assassin's Creed is a much bigger franchise, much more of a staple in this industry like Call of Duty, so it is going to sell no matter what. But the difference between, say, like 7 to 10 million copies and 10 to 20 million copies, that's important right now, especially for Ubisoft, who badly needs a win. Now, it is also worth mentioning, people have been talking about the historical inaccuracies and the fact that some of the specialists or the consultants that Ubisoft hired are very questionable. This is a great example of it. Their historical expert that they brought in had I guess they majored in, or they were primarily focused on gender studies. No idea why they would be contributing to the, the culture of Japan and why they would make a great expert for this game, but yeah, that's something that Ubisoft did, very much in line with what we expect out of the French company nowadays. But very much so, a lot of the controversy surrounding Assassin's Creed Shadows and why the marketing for this game has been absolute hell is because of Yasuke, and also the inconsistencies coming from Ubisoft in terms of their communication surrounding this. They had to actually publish a statement a number of months ago to the Japanese community apologizing for the game, and also talking about Yasuke and how his history is up for debate, because that has been one of the big controversies, the way that Ubisoft has communicated him as a samurai, or is he not, and some of the history is definitely in the air, and Ubisoft did acknowledge that to the ire a lot of games media and also the Reddit for some reason of Assassin's Creed. So yes, this is just one of those games that, just one of the most controversial games of all time, very much so. We've also seen that the Assassin's Creed development team, they have gone on the offensive, especially in recent months. We did see the director defending Yasuke's inclusion just recently. This was in January, saying that he defended it from the noise online. We know why Yasuke is in the game. We know how he fits. And we've heard this a couple of times before from the development team. Some of the executive producers have been going after some of the outrage and some of the community that has been voicing displeasure with the fact that Yasuke is included in Assassin's Creed Shadows. But I do think that it takes away from some of the genuine criticism with the character and the fact that this is the first playable historical, figure that is going to be an Assassin's Creed game. I think that that was one of the biggest mistakes that they could have made, especially because of the history surrounding Yasuke and it being up in the air. And it's just one of those things that too little too late. Like, obviously they couldn't change the character completely because of the controversy on the flip side would have been enormous just as much. And also they would have had to delay this game probably months or years, and that just wasn't going to happen. But very much so, this French developer Ubisoft, while they have been defending Yasuke in recent months in a number of interviews, they've also been saying some things that almost feel like they're dismissing the importance of Yasuke as a protagonist. This is a recent article from IGN, a recent interview. Assassin's Creed Shadow players won't be missing out if they largely ignore one protagonist. I find this headline so funny just because of everything we just talked about. Creative director Jonathan Dumont told Screen Rant, said Assassin's Creed Shadows won't force players to play as both the Steli Neo and the brutish Yasuke in equal measure when it arrives, nor will it lock off certain parts of the game to those who prefer one over the other. I don't think you're missing out on things too much. I think it's more of your preference to say, okay, I'll see how the game will adapt a little bit to the character if you choose one way or the other. They get individual introductions and they get their own questline. Also, let's say for Neo, a personal questline cannot be played by Yasuke, and those are two distinct things, so I guess that's what you would be missing out on. But the core of the game can be for you to pick your character and the game adapts. And then he goes on to mention that we're not imposing players to split the time. Dumont said, if you prefer one character for any reason, you can play maybe, I don't know, I'm not going to put a percentage, but quite a bit of the game using one of them. But if you want to balance it out, I play quite a bit balanced out, and what happens is I play with one for 3 to 4 or 5 hours, and then I switch, and then I just play 2 to 3 hours. Usually I play stealth, and then I say, alright, let me destroy some camps and stuff alright for a while, and then I just change like that. And IGN does perfectly bring up, like, the historical inaccuracies, the issues that people have had with this game isn't just Yasuke, and we've talked a little bit about it, like the shrine stuff earlier on in this video, but yeah, it's not enjoyed a particularly positive promotional period so far. Yeah, the marketing has been an absolute disaster. However, with the development team having to apologize on separate occasions for inaccuracies in Assassin's Creed Shadows depictions of Japan, there's been issues with the architecture, and using a historical recreation group's flag without permission. That was also a big no-no. There was also another Japanese official which voiced complaints about the game last year. Yet another controversy came as collectible figure maker Pure Arts removed an Assassin's Creed Shadows statue from sale over its insensitive design, and combined with the two delays, fans are growing increasingly impatient as a result. And that specific statue was because it mirrored a statue that was destroyed in World War II, and the fact that Ubisoft was using it as marketing, just absolutely unacceptable. And really, it's honestly astonishing that that got through the approval phase, but it also shows how this company really was just ignoring any and all of the historical issues that people were going to have with this game. I really don't think that they thought it was going to be that controversial, and I think that really does say a lot about this current climate, and also the fact of, well, the mess that Ubisoft brought upon themselves. Now, we have seen other headlines. Again, the games media has been going in the defensive for this game. The Gamer, great example of this. They've been number of pieces saying that you really don't care about some of the issues with the game, you know, springtime having watermelons. Another one talking about how the game, you know, the fact that Yasuke can romance men and female characters, the game was always going to be like this. And I suppose, I mean, this is just what the French developer is known for, but still one of those headlines that, again, mired in controversy. At this point, though, Assassin's Creed Shadows pre-orders are solid. Again, this is a franchise that is massive, and it's going to sell no matter what. Now, how much it sells, that's the big question mark right now. And we did hear from Tom Enderson of Insider Gaming. He gave an exclusive insider account on how pre-orders and how the game looks so far. And this is in February of 2025, and he said specifically, at the time of writing, Shadows currently has around 300,000 pre-orders. This is February 18th. Said sources and Odyssey's day one player numbers were between 4 to 450,000, a gap of around 100 to 150,000 that needs to be made up in the next 4 weeks. And again, these, you know, AAA open world RPGs of sorts that these Assassin's Creed games in the recent years, they have been massive sellers. And if this game isn't that, this is probably game over for Ubisoft, who is already looking like game over because of the massive amount of failures the last number of years. This game needs to sell, and we really don't have a great idea of how much it needs to sell, but we do know it needs to be a behemoth. And it goes on to mention that in comparison, Star Wars Outlaws, a game that failed to meet Ubisoft's expectations, had less than half the pre-orders Shadows currently has in the same time period before launch, it was said. And then Henderson goes on to mention that looking at the data, if Shadows continues the same trajectory as Odyssey throughout launch, it's estimated that the game could sell approximately 3.5 million units in its first month. Valhalla, which was the series' most successful Assassin's Creed game, had some 8 million players in its first month, but COVID was going on, so things were definitely very different in the gaming sphere at the time, with more than 65% being attributed to past generation consoles at the time, which I don't believe is a factor with this being a next-gen only release. So yeah, Assassin's Creed Shadows, the pressure is on. The game releases in about 2 weeks, and the marketing, the promotional tour for this game, even as IGN said, it has been an absolute mess, an absolute disaster, and we'll see if it has an impact on things, but the controversy surrounding this game has been historic. Anyway, what do you make of Assassin's Creed Shadows? Are you planning to play it day one? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, but thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video, or if you found any informative value. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.